Hiya, folks! Welcome to our keynote speech for day 2 of CactusCon 9, number 2. We are going to introduce our keynote speaker very shortly, but first we want to give a little bit of love to our sponsors. Our partners, Bishop Fox, BlackBerry, Early Warning, and PayPal. Our sponsor, Axon. Our supporter tiers, New Genesis Solutions, Digital Shadows, and Hack the Box. And of course, our in-kind sponsors, who without them, we wouldn't have fun little prizes. We've got SANS, Offensive Security, and No Starch Press. In fact, let's listen to a couple words from some of those aforementioned sponsors now.
Hi, this is Pat Flynn, Head of Recruiting with Bishop Fox. We're proud to sponsor this year's CactusCon and hope you're enjoying the presentations. Even though this year's experience is different, it's still one of the best CactusCon conferences we've ever had. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to meeting you in our Discord channel.
And we're back. It is my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, April Wright. April is a veritable badass with ties to many organizations and groups with which we are all familiar. She has presented around the globe, and today she graces our stage with her presence. Thank you, April, very much, and we are all eager to hear your keynote speech entitled Personal Branding Safely.
Hello, CactusCon! Welcome to Personal Branding Safely. I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself from a world of creeps and criminals as you go through your personal branding journey. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I study intelligence gathering and operational security and privacy and surveillance. I've been building my personal brand for about 5 years-ish, between writing, speaking, teaching, contributing to articles, things like that. So I've experienced this process myself, and I practice what I teach, and you can find my full bio at architectsecurity.org. Personal brands are really important for a sense of self. Figuring out who you are and what your place is in the community, in the world, in your career. It's also a good way to make friends, but not just friends, but people who become your network. People who will help you get jobs and find new opportunities, and people that will go to you when they want to work on a project, or they need input, or they need advice. Personal brands help you stand out from the crowd, of course. If somebody has no personal brand and they just exist in the world, that's perfectly fine. But having a personal brand is going to make it so that people will come to you rather than you going to them in many cases. And the best part, in my opinion, because I was always uncomfortable with this, is that you'll know exactly what to say when people say, like, who are you and what do you do, and or introduce yourself to the group. So you'll have that down pat. Contributing to the community and the world in general are good things. It'll definitely get you further in your career. Spreading knowledge helps protect things that we all rely on every day. So if I share something with somebody and they share something with somebody, and it ultimately impacts and helps a service that I use, that's a good thing. That's going to be helping lots of people instead of just the company that I work for. It's also good to elevate and encourage others. I love talking to people about their careers and what they're looking to do and their projects and other things. Once you have a personal brand and you start to let's say, have a lot of followers on Twitter, you can help elevate other people and help them be known by retweeting them and sharing things about what they're working on and stuff like that. So you can definitely help other people. It's also challenging. to do these things. It takes time. It takes patience. It's not always easy, but you do have a lot of fun. I mean, I certainly do, and I've seen uh, every continent except for two. So hopefully I'll get to those soon. But before you get going, let's get real about some of the things that can happen when you do start to have a personal brand. First of all, you might have a false sense of security. I hear these quotes a lot from different people, like, I don't care about privacy, I've got nothing to hide. That's not really true. I hate to break it to you, but people can still do things that are very negative or hurtful or cause problems for you, even if you think that everything that you have is meaningless to someone of no value. But think of the LifeLock guy. He put his social security number on trucks and billboards and everywhere. He's had his identity stolen like multiple times, and that's like their whole business model. So everybody has valuable information. There's the opposite of that is this notion of like, I'm a hard target. I've done all these things, and I operate under an alias, and I have no, like, nobody's going to find anything about me. But that becomes a trap, because if you're on high alert all the time, and it starts to all become noise, and you get burned out quickly. So giving back to the community is very important. But giving back to the community while protecting yourself is also very important. I don't want to dissuade you with any of these things. I want you to understand why you need to protect yourself. So we're going to go through some scenarios and stories and history. It's never too late to take steps to protect yourselves from these things that we're going to talk about. Always consider that personal safety is number one, and that includes not only yourself, but the people that you care about, and people around you. So we're going to go through some things that are going to be a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to scare you off, because after we talk about these, I'm going to teach you how to take specific actions to protect yourself so that you can go forth and be awesome. So like I said, first I'm going to scare you a little. I'm sorry, but we have to understand what we're protecting against. So what is doxing? The word doxing first emerged in the 90s hacker community, where anonymity was sacred. So posting documents or dropping documents that revealed the legal name of a person who had only been known by an alias was a pretty cruel act. Dox became dox, which in turn lost the drop and became a verb in and of itself, occasionally being written with an extra x as doxing, which I personally like to use because there's so few words with double x's in them. Celebrity doxing is a pastime of some people, and something that the public often likes to see in some cases. By weaponizing personal information, let's talk about the March 2013 mass celebrity doxing. It included all kinds of personal and financial information of many celebrities, dozens of victims. For instance, Lady Gaga, her social security number and credit report were leaked. However, this is rather interesting. In 2011, information on thousands of her fans were leaked. So it wasn't just her, but it was also people who, I mean, in theory, she cares about her fans. She doesn't want her fans to get hurt, I assume. I mean, you want to have fans. So protecting your information is, in some cases, protecting other people's information. Scarlett Johansson was unlucky enough to have nude photos leaked in addition to this. She described it as devastating, and said that, I quote, "I felt like it's such a degrading and awful thing to have to go through that." The Gamergate movement led to the harassment of many women gamers and developers, with multiple prominent female gamers being doxxed and harassed. Felicia Day, amazing in Mystery Science Theater 3000 reboot, and loved the guild. Anyway, she said, "I have tried to retweet a few of the articles I've seen dissecting the issue in support, but personally I'm terrified to be doxxed for even typing the words Gamergate. I've had stalkers and restraining orders issued in the past. I've had people show up on my doorstep even when my personal information was hard to get." So some other high-profile targets, you'd think that these people would, have people to help lock down their lives, but we realize no one is really safe from doxing. So we have to take steps to defend ourselves as much as possible, and then be ready in case it happens and know what to do. So who does this? Who would possibly do this to another human? Well, activists and hacktivists. So the term dox entered mainstream public awareness through media attention attracted by Anonymous. In December 2011, they exposed information of 7,000 law enforcement officers. And in 2014, they began releasing identities of members of the KKK. In recent news, early January 2021, hacktivists released information about users of far-right discussion forum Parler, including locations, photos, places, and videos. They also had usernames and real names and links to the posts and videos, and they mapped them out, as you can see in the background of this slide. Following the April 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, vigilantes on Reddit wrongly identified a number of people as suspects, including Sunil Tripathi, a student reported missing before the bombings took place. He was not guilty, but was the subject of a manhunt. Journalists also do this. In 2016, Fox Business News anchor Lou Dobbs revealed the address and phone number of Jessica Leeds, one of the women who accused Trump of inappropriate sexual advances. And in 2016, also, political editor Michael Hirsch resigned after publishing the home address of white nationalist Richard B. Spencer on Facebook. Sometimes you may dox yourself. I had the original paper version of this in 2017 from the AAA Road Association, and I actually cut it out of the paper because I thought it was really funny. So he gave away a ton of personal information in this interview. What was your first car? Is that not one of those personal security questions that they ask when you set up an account? Also, your first job, McDonald's. We got it. Okay, so if he's using those real answers to the security questions, we could possibly get into his accounts or some of his accounts or something. So, sometimes we inadvertently expose ourselves, and other people can inadvertently expose things about us. Ripped from today's headlines, Helena Duke was told by her mother last year that she was no longer welcome in her home because she participated in a Black Lives Matter rally. Her mother, a Trump supporter, warned her she was exposing herself to violence at the BLM event. After the attempted insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, Helena identified her mother, aunt, and uncle and outed them on Twitter. So angry children can certainly be a threat. Angry parents as well. January 25th, 2021. It's been a busy year. Ex-counselor to Trump posted a topless picture of her daughter Claudia, 16, on Twitter. Of course, since Claudia's a minor, this is considered child pornography, and Kellyanne could and should face criminal charges just for having such a photo, but anyway. Conway's account shared an image of her topless teenage daughter. The post was removed, but not before Twitter users documented it. Once it's out there forever. Some other threats: people with grudges. Maybe somebody didn't like you in high school, or people who just don't like you in general. People who are jealous of you, of your success, of your station in life, of your good looks, of your repertoire of articles that you've written. People who don't like you for stupid reasons like race or religion or gender identity. There's also people just want attention, and whether it's negative or positive, and in this case negative, they just will do it for the lulz. And then there's people, of course, that do it because they don't know any better, and they don't know why it's dangerous, and so they share things that they shouldn't. Basically, anyone who has data online is theoretically at risk of doxing. Some people are doxed without warning or without doing anything, but people who are in the public eye, for example, people with personal brands, may be at higher risk for doxing and related activities. So doxing sources are generally legal. Info is obtained using open source intelligence, or OSINT, and that includes internet records like the information in a Whois lookup, or Wayback Machine looking at the history of pages. Social media is probably the number one place that people find things. There's also these people search directories, and it's like find anyone, and you pay a little bit of money and you can get a full credit report on background check and whatever on a person. And if they're willing to pay, it's not that expensive to get access to these things. Website logs, cookies, phishing, certain types of fairly passive social engineering. But there's also less legal information gathering tactics, which are usually active attacks. And these are generally not legal because they're active and not passive. So, spying on someone, eavesdropping on them, setting up surveillance, these are not legal. And if they are, it's a very gray line. So people will they'll collect breach data and put it together as an identity and sell it on the dark web. And the more information you have about a person, the more money you can get for an identity. That's certainly a way that an attacker could find information about you. Identity theft is an interesting one because it can not only be the result of doxing, but it can also be used after getting the identity and to get more information. So once you have that established fake identity or stolen identity, then you can get more info from by calling places and asking for account numbers and things like that. So it's so easy because our personal identifiable information, or PII, can't really be changed. I can't change my mother's maiden name. I can't change the street I grew up on. I can't change my first car. But the ability to contact people is easier and easier, and especially doing it anonymously makes impersonation and pretexting and other types of social engineering so much easier because you can, I could certainly spoof a phone number right now on my phone and call you as anybody from any number. Spycraft gear is readily available. Location tracking, like those GPS devices you see in movies, they put under cars. They're like magnetic, and you can track where people go. But more than that, we overshare on social media, and we overshare on blogs and message boards and things like that. We live stream our lives. Some people live stream their lives. So it's sometimes easier to get information from the person than from other sources. There's also, human error and phishing and things like that we know are a problem. An interesting one is digitizing old media. So as like libraries and other outlets start to scan their microfilm basically and put it on the internet, you can find information that might not have been online previously. things like school newsletters and stuff like that. So it definitely makes it easier to get now. So what can happen? Well, doxing can either start with harassment and bullying, so the harassment and bullying, and then they dox you, or someone can dox you, and then you can be harassed and bullied. What can an attacker do with data? Photos, they can either post them and just to embarrass you, but they can also extort you to so that, to pay them or whatever to not leak them. If they have your home address, they can find you, send you malicious things, PII, identity theft, and other really terrible things. Financial information fraud, tax fraud, especially, and if they have evidence of a crime, um, or even if it's just faked evidence of a crime, you could be arrested. I mean, you might get out of, if it's fake, you probably won't face charges, but so stalking is a criminal act, but doxing is not always illegal. Stalking is a crime basically everywhere in the United States. It can be very difficult to find the perpetrator of any of these types of attacks, which is kind of ironic. But doxing is not generally a crime unless the obtaining the information involved a crime, or if it's doxing is done against like jurors and federal employees and things like that. So doxing can hurt your personal and professional reputation. It can humiliate or embarrass, depending on what their goal is. It can cause social backlash either on them or on you. Financial credit trouble. Once your identity is stolen, I've just heard so many horror stories about that. It lasts for a long time and it's hard to deal with. There's also swatting, which is false reporting of incidents such as hostage situations, and the SWAT team comes in and takes you down. It happens a lot with gamers for some reason, like during games. But basically, the internet is not like court, and you are guilty until proven innocent with anything that's posted. So, what are the TTPs of stalking and harassment? Threats, any kind of threats, spreading rumors, posting embarrassing pictures and videos, whether it's a real photo or video, a doctored photo or video, or even one that might be considered parody, like with your face pasted over something else that is happening, and it's obviously fake and it's meant to denigrate. Um, Watching and following, spying, cameras, GPS, those kinds of things. Unwanted calls, messages, hang-ups, texts, cards, letters, flowers, presents, sending pizza to the house that isn't paid for. These are some of the less less scary things that can happen, I suppose. Approaching and showing up at somebody's workplace or school or like your favorite coffee shop, and just like being somewhere where you don't want them to be. Things that are posted quickly and widely distributed, and there's this concept of internet permanency where once something is out there, like the like Kellyanne's daughter's photo, it's out there. Unfortunately, it's very hard to make things like that go away. So understanding and undoing damage may be challenging or impossible. Victims may face violence or threats, fear, anxiety, feeling unsafe, and it can be really stressful and traumatic. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to deal with that in positive ways. So now that I've scared you, here's an adorable puppy. And I hope you haven't given up yet, because I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself from these things. Your goal is to proactively decrease your risk profile, and that's why we're here. You want to be confident that you've done everything you can to protect your personal safety and take on the work. So how do we put ourselves out there safely? Well, these are the steps. This is your personal risk management program. Again, personal safety is number one. Got to protect your life. Then we go and discover what info is out there about us. We protect our assets, we mitigate and minimize threats, and then we monitor for indicators of compromise, crimes, harassment, identity theft, those kinds of things. We actively defend our privacy as we go forward, and we are prepared for the worst and know what to do if it happens. So here's how that goes. But first, a note on pseudonyms and hacker handles. They are security through obscurity, which we know doesn't work. So handles can almost always be tied back to you. Don't rely on them for privacy or safety. Feel free to use them, but know that they will be tied back to you at some point. So let's dig deep into ourselves. Have you ever received a breach notification? Of course you have. That means that your information is probably available on the dark web or in some database somewhere. If you've ever used real answers to security questions, that could put you at risk. If you have a business or own a home, if you've been arrested, married, divorced, anything that has a public record, that's out there and it's permanent. So if you have your home address listed on your business registration with the state, then people are going to be able to find that. So you want to take a look at yourself from the inside, using what you know, and then take a look at yourself from the outside, pretending you don't know anything about yourself. And ideally, that step would be done by somebody like a friend of yours or something who could help you out. You have to think like an attacker and look at yourself from a malicious point of view. Make sure that as you're doing this, you're going to save links to things you think might be used against you, like if you find like an old LiveJournal account or something. Search for yourself in incognito mode so that you don't have personalized results coming up. DuckDuckGo, Tor search engines use multiple and search for your PII. Look at people search sites. You don't have to pay for any reports unless you really want to. Find any reviews that you've posted of places that you frequent or have visited, like Facebook reviews or Google Maps or whatever. So you're going to basically build a profile of yourself and your online presence, and that's your attack surface. And then we're going to Maltego everything you know about yourself. And we'll talk about that later too. So essentially you're trying to find out what someone could find out about you before they do. So here's a quick OSINT tutorial. I got permission to do this from DFIR Science on Twitter. Thank you. There are many paths that you can follow to perform OSINT. This is just an example. In some cases, if someone is targeting a company, they might start with the company's web about page or their contact page or something like that. Their LinkedIn, trying to find employees, and then drilling down into each one, looking for vulnerabilities, for spear phishing. But here I'm starting with an individual. This is like if I was, going to dox or stalk or attack a person, this is more likely the path that I would take. So, DFIR Science's Twitter page has a website at the bottom left. You can see in the blue box that I visited, and right away I've got a name, Joshua I. James. Got some links here. I did look at the TLS certificate to see if there was any useful information. I did a whois search on the domain name, and there was no useful information, so that was best. But I went to the contact page, and I looked at both the links. PayPal had a photo, which you can see here, and also a possible username, JIJUS. So I note that down as a link. There's a piece of information. It's a crumb. And then I enlarged the photo and did Google reverse image search. I found some links. The first link was to ResearchGate, and dang, Joshua has a lot of publications. Maybe the doxer's jealous of this, body of work. Who knows? So we also have a new connection, as seen on the right, the Hallam University. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. In South Korea. So we know that these people are connected, or that person in that university. So one of the other links from the reverse image search was a YouTube. The live stream was down. There were no videos. But I noticed there was a separate YouTube account for DFIR Science versus for Joshua. So that indicates there's at least 2 Google accounts, and that could be useful later, maybe if I was an attacker. LinkedIn lives in the DC area, probably the area, not the actual DC. We've got some employers, contacts. I've got some mutual connections. Confirmed it's the same Joshua by seeing Hallam University again on this page. It's good to confirm that you have the right person. So Google and the website led to GitHub, which has another username, JIJames, so note that down. There's another website that you can see the email address is Joshua plus something at DFIR Science. So that means that it's probably a catch-all email address, which is interesting and could be useful. HackerOne had another username, JODOSA, which could be reused on other sites. Just some Googling, I found out what high school he went to because there was an article about how amazing he is. We can all hope for this. But it also gives us an idea of the area that he grew up in, and there may still be family, possibly old friends there. And we have his, right from the Google search results, his university email address. I went to Social Catfish, which is one of those people search sites. I put him in there. It looks like the same person, as far as I can tell. And for less than $6, I could have all kinds of information, including addresses and phone numbers and whatever's out there. So I pulled up Maltego, and there'll be a link to this later. Pulled up Maltego. I put in some of the things that I know about him: usernames, email addresses, things like that. I ran some automated searches within Maltego, and I pulled up some other websites. It found some links to different emails, different websites, etc. I kept running it on different things. I kept running it. You run it over and over again, and you come up with new and interesting pieces of the puzzle. So, like I said, I do this regularly. This is me. I keep this updated. For example, here, I have myself and my email address. It links me to Boston. Everybody knows I live in Boston. And it's got my Twitter username, and on the right image, it's got a hashtag that's associated with me and the website. So I can keep digging deeper into all of these things. So that's Maltego in a nutshell. So there's no such thing as perfect security, and we know this. There's no such thing as perfect privacy either. You can't be known and obscure simultaneously. Bryson Bort had this great quote. You have to assume that people are going to be able to find you. It's just the law of numbers. People are going to find you no matter how careful you are and how many precautions, but you can take steps to limit the damage that is caused, and you can take steps to prevent it, but it's never going to be 100%. So really, all we can do is stay vigilant, do our best, try our best, and sleep well at the end of the day. So here are some things to do before you put yourself out there. Use a catch-all email address for each site, like Joshua did. Anonymize usernames for non-social media, like banking. So My Twitter account is at April Wright. Do you think I use April Wright for my banking username? No way. Right? So don't use this. Don't reuse usernames just like you wouldn't reuse passwords. With the password manager, it's super easy to keep all these things straight. With MFA, always try to use a device-based version versus SMS or email if possible. Make sure that your home physical addresses, devices are protected, like Wi-Fi and routers and IoT, and that they're patched and that kind of thing. If you can, set up. Well, I have two separate routers that each have a guest network and a main network. So I went a little crazy, but if you can put IoT devices on a guest network that only allows outbound connections and doesn't allow device-to-device LAN connections, that would be ideal. Considering your credit report, credit freeze or credit lock may be appropriate for you depending on how often you need to have someone check your credit, I guess. Make sure you, because one is a little harder to turn off. A VPN that has a good track record of not logging and that's offshore, and use it on every device, including your phone and your tablets. So you've figured out what your online presence looks like. So let's clean. Before you put yourself out there, clean up things you found in your risk assessment, close the exposure points, take down notices, and learn how to do this before you need to do this. You can learn how to do it and may never need it, but it's better to know how to do it before you need to. So delete posted reviews that you think are potentially exposing things. Opt out of the people search sites when you find yourself. Change your secret questions to random things. When you do that, it's not like a random password because you may have to say your secret question over the phone one day. So if somebody says, "What's your mother's maiden name?" and I say it's IJF $KP whatever, it's much harder than saying my mother's maiden name is SpongeBob Table Basket. It should be something pronounceable, but ridiculous and kind of long. Also call your mobile provider and have them put a pin on your account to prevent SIM jacking. Change usernames as needed. Like I said, with banking versus social media, don't reuse them. Change your phone number. If you want to delete old Wi-Fi profiles that you've connected to in your history. Hide, unsubscribe, whatever you need to do to clean up the things that you found. You'll also want to get an alternate physical address, so like a UPS store address, for example, or a virtual office, as well as a voice over IP phone number that you can use that is separate from your cell phone number. Get a domain name and an email address at that domain, and then change your account information on social media and other places where it could be exposed to that information rather than your home information and your actual cell phone number, because your voice over IP is going to forward to your cell phone number, but don't want to give out I never buy things online with a debit card, for example. It's basically the same thing. I never give out my actual cell phone number. I give out my voice over IP number. So another thing I recommend is setting up your own LLC. You could set up you can incorporate if you want, but LLCs are super easy. And when you do this, it's just very important. Make sure that you use that separate location and email and whatever else information they ask for, not your real information, because when you file for an LLC registration, that filing and anything you file with the state is going to be public record forever, even if you make a correction. So things you should do on social media: limit old posts and remove photos that don't have good OPSEC. I know Facebook has a feature where you can basically you can limit all of your old posts just to private or whatever. Delete old accounts. Don't overshare. Do privacy checkup on Google and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those. Go through your friends list, remove anybody you don't know or talk to or care about, and create groups for friend types. Like I have one for work and hackers and acquaintances and neighbors and whatever, but don't rely on them because it's not a form of access control, really. And maybe create a social media date of birth in the same way that you would use the email, the catch-all email. A lot of people use January 1st. I don't recommend using that. Too many people use it. It's too obvious. And you can have a separate date of birth for like any website, basically, and just store it in your password manager. And like putting your birthday as public on Facebook, I mean, if you want to get all those, happy birthday notes, that's fine, but I recommend making it private, and probably having it be not your real birthday. Assume anything posted online can be made public at any time. So indicators of compromise. New login notifications for important websites. Don't just turn these on. Make sure you review them and the last login date if it's ever shown. You can set up financial notifications at your bank for any time an email address changes or something like that. There's free tools that can help you if your bank doesn't offer good notifications about like large outgoing payments or transfers. Tell the people around you that there is a potential threat and what kinds of things they should look out for. Teach them OPSEC. Set up Google text alerts. You can do it for like any phrase. Set up your name, your email, your domain name, something like that, and you'll get a note anytime something is posted. And credit monitoring alerts. If you don't have credit monitoring by now after all the breaches, get it. It's very important. Identity theft. The IRS says that there are 3 indicators of compromise. If more than one tax return was filed for you, if you suddenly owe additional tax or have a refund offset or have had collection action taken against you for a year you did not file a tax return, or if the IRS records indicate you received wages or other income from an employer from whom you did not work. So you may be working under your Social Security number. So once you've set up notifications and you've cleaned up your outline, what you want to do is practice OPSEC. So there are some things that you want to think about in terms of home surveillance. These are all based on your risk and comfort with having monitoring in your house. It's much easier to break a window than to hack a smart lock, but it's also easy to pick a standard tumbler lock. So you got to think about these things in how they fit into your life and how you want to implement them, because it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all for everything. Make sure you don't record places like your sofa and your bed. Focus on like ingress and egress doors, windows, garage doors, things like that, perimeter. Don't have too many interior-facing surveillance cameras, because all it takes is walking through your kitchen naked one time and you may expose yourself. So EXIF data. So when a photo is taken by a camera that has a GPS attached, it will note where the photo was taken. EXIF data is also used to put in copyrights, to put in the name of the person who took the photo, to put in the focal length and the lighting and some other things, like did the flash go off, stuff like that. But geotagging is a way that people can find you. These are exact lat and long location of a place, and you can see it just by looking at the properties of an image. Now, most social media sites ask if you want to tag the location, if you haven't like explicitly said no, don't ever do this. And some apps will strip the geotag for you, and some message boards and apps do not strip the geotags, and everyone with access to that photo will be able to find the location very easily. There's also metadata in documents like Word docs and Excel and those kinds of things. If you just look through the internet at these kinds of files, you can get a lot of interesting information, usernames, phone numbers, things like that. So don't accept friend requests from strangers and validate people offline. Just because they have 3 friends in common doesn't mean that they really know them. That's not a good enough vetting. Warn people not to share information about you. Again, teach them OPSEC. Avoid those polls and quizzes. They're really there to advertising, but also to collect personal information. When you post a photo, think before you post. Look at the photo. Look in the foreground and the background. Is somebody wearing a work badge? Is there any identifying information about where you are that you wouldn't want to share? Those kinds of things. Just think about the photo and look at it from all perspectives, not just how does my smile look, before you post it. Don't RSVP to physical events like on Facebook, and biometrics, there's some convenience trade-offs that you'll need to think about when you enable them or disable them. If somebody asks you where you are from or what you do for a living, I'm April from Boston. I work in IT. That's all I need to say. Don't give too much information, to your Uber driver or somebody at a bar or a coffee shop. Don't check into places virtually. Be careful about reviews. If you're really concerned, you can vary your route and your routine. If you use online dating, make sure you use photos that can't be reverse image searched. So you may need to take some new photos, but it's a small thing to do for protection against that. Always be safe when you go out, especially if you're alone. If you need to have some sort of protection or body camera or whatever, do what you need to do to be safe. Phones, tablets, computers. I would highly recommend that you disable location services unless it's for like a Maps app or something like that. If an app doesn't need the mic and the camera and the location, disable them. You can always type in your address into the Grubhub or whatever. You don't always have to rely on the automatic feature, and it provides you more privacy. Disable geotagging for photos if you don't need it. Look through your apps, remove anything that you don't use, and if you don't recognize it, it could be malicious. So also remove it, and cover cameras when they're not in use. So basically, you're being smart, protecting your life, number 1, covering your tracks, trusting people but verifying, and warning other people in writing, especially if you're in danger. I once told my boss, if I do not show up for work, send help. And you can certainly do that. So what to do if you are being doxxed or harassed? First of all, breathe, take a step back, calm down, take screenshots of everything, back the captures up. If they may be attempting to log into other accounts and get more info. Doxing is against the terms of service of nearly every social platform, so report it and they'll take action. Make sure you reach out for moral support and contact authorities if necessary. Take screenshots of chats, posts, fake websites, tell other people, And you may be helping others by not hiding it. So by telling other people what's going on, and these are some screenshots of from Twitter that I got today, of people helping other people figure out who is who the bad people are, basically. So that, again, there's no perfect defense against it, but after it happens, log out all your sessions that are logged into accounts, check permissions, change things you can, call any providers that they might be targeting. And EU residents can demand takedown of things under GDPR, but US residents can only ask the platform to take them down. So you're pretty lucky. Again, make sure you have a support system. It's really important. It's hard to go through things alone, and nobody should have to. So be kind to yourself if anything happens to you. Make sure that you're caring for yourself. It can be traumatizing, and paranoia, as many of us probably know, is fairly exhausting. Every day, make sure that you think some nice things about yourself, that you get positive reinforcement from your support system, doing things that make you feel good, telling yourself that you've done everything that you can to prevent what happened, and you're doing everything now to make it right. Reach out for help. People in the community want to help you. And for this talk, some resources, maltego.com for the Maltego Community Edition is free. Intel Techniques has a workbook about how to remove your data from those people search sites. It's exhaustive, and there are services that will do it for money, so it depends what your time is worth, but that's a personal decision. So, some books. Michael Basil is a prolific privacy and intelligence person who has podcasts and books and resources, so definitely check out those. With that, I'd like to say thank you. I love this little dog. She reminds me of me. So if you want a human with me, we are doing a live Q&A after this session, or you can find me on Twitter at April Wright. Thank you for coming and attending this talk, and I hope it helps you or someone that you care about.